What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. This is Orioles Today, and as always, I am Sean Ferguson, hoping everybody had a very Merry Christmas yesterday. If you're a fan of today's episode, please throw some old wrapping paper at the like button. And if you're a fan of this content, please subscribe. Get yourself daily notifications for all of these daily video drops covering all things the Baltimore Orioles. I know that we have talked the last couple of episodes mainly about starting pitching because with how busy and aggressive the Orioles have been this offseason, the main focus right now has to be starting pitching. They've focused on many areas where they were weaker, and they've slowly but surely worked on pitching, getting Helsley for the back end. They traded for Boz, who's middle to back end with upside, maybe one day to be in the front end, but they need another front end guy, and they have been rumored for mainly the top 3 to 4 free agent starting pitchers that are still out there that I've been talking about, that they continue to be linked to and talked about. Amai, his window is coming to a close very, very soon. January 2nd is the deadline for when he has to make a decision, or he's going back to Japan. But other teams like the Chicago Cubs mainly are looking like a team that could go ahead and snag him in front of the Orioles. But with the other group of guys that I continue to talk about that the Orioles are continuing to link to, one has started to emerge a little bit more with more reports and stories coming out over the last day or so, and that is over Framber Valdez. The Orioles looking right now like a realistic destination for Valdez, for the main reason being that a contract for him is projected anywhere I've seen from 180 up to 220 over 6 to 7 years. And the New York Mets have been rumored heavily about him as well. But the reason why many right now are saying that the Orioles most likely will be his landing spot is because the Orioles will be, I could see the Orioles being one of the few teams that throw around $200 million at him, just with how much history he has. And I know a lot of you guys down in the comments have talked about it as well, about his attitude, especially towards his teammates, which is unacceptable. And a lot of teams might not want that in their rotation, and all teams really shouldn't. And yes, he is extremely talented. He has a lot of upside, and there's still many teams, most likely including the Orioles, I'd be very happy to have him there and are very hopeful that they'll be able to get his attitude and sportsmanship under control, because what they need is what he is going to be able to do on the field for them and help them get wins. And the Orioles right now look like one of those teams that would be willing to throw out around $200 million for him. We saw Cease get that massive contract over 200, and Valdez could be the next guy. Toronto was willing to give Cease that money, and Cease, he could definitely have a much higher upside than Framber Valdez does, and definitely comes with less baggage. So that is what is being talked about right now with Valdez. Is right now it could be the Orioles that land him if they really want to give him that much money, and if they're willing to give him that much money, and what it's looking like is many other teams, including the Mets, might be out on spending that much. So it really could be the Orioles right now that it's their guy to lose. And there's still around another 3 top-tier starting free agents that the Orioles could be looking at. And if they feel like Valdez is the best fit and they're willing to give him that $200 million, I feel like it's going to happen very soon. But another guy that I know many of you out there on this channel definitely who are way higher on over Valdez is Ranger Suarez, and MLB.com just came out and said that the Orioles right now appear like the best fit for him. And he's not a guy that, I believe he only averages 147 innings over the last 4 years, which isn't terrible. And injuries have played a part of his career as well, which the Orioles definitely want to get away from. They were just so injury plagued in 2025. They could definitely do without, but that's kind of the boat you're in right now with these top tier guys that are left in free agency and who you have on your rotation already. You have some great pitchers in your current rotation, but most of them are very injury prone. Most of them are. So it's just kind of one of those things where you can put together this great rotation and are just hopeful for good health throughout the season. So yes, Suarez comes with injury concerns and being able to pitch an entire season, even when healthy. But when you're taking the two right now, yes, Valdez is going to be looking for a big-time deal around the $200 million mark. And the O's could be one of the few teams that are willing to give him that. But if they still have an option, if Ranger Suarez is still out there, I would much rather have Suarez. He's going to cost less as well from what the reports are looking like. So you're going to get a guy who's going to cost you less money, and I believe it's going to be a better fit in your rotation with better upside of Suarez over Valdez. So yes, the Orioles, like they keep saying, do have the payroll for another big splash. It doesn't have to be Valdez. They can still make a big-time splash with the Ranger Suarez as well. And right now, MLB.com is saying that Suarez, his best fit would be in Baltimore. I would be very happy with that over Valdez as well. I know most of you guys here who follow this channel closely would be very okay with that as well. And only time will tell. I know I read a few comments a couple of episodes ago talking about once Tatsuya Mai goes, since, like I said just a minute ago, his window is closing very, very soon. Once he goes, the others are going to go right behind him. And that could definitely be the case. And the Orioles could be playing a box-out game to see. It's really, I feel like, if they have the money, and it depends on who else is going to be along for the bidding war with them. Like I said, there's certain teams like the Cubs who need a starting pitcher, but they're kind of focused on what the reports are saying. So it could be coming down to a couple guys of Valdez and Suarez. And in my opinion, I'd much rather have Suarez, but the Orioles need to get one of them. And one guy who is still a free agent that I've been seeing on this channel you guys talk about is not Lucas Giolito, who overwhelmingly you guys were not a fan of the Orioles signing in any capacity whatsoever. But one name that kept popping up was Chris Bassitt. You guys were talking about, not all of you guys, but there's a few of you talking about Chris Bassitt, adding him to the middle to back end of the rotation. And I guess the question would be, would that be welcomed around all Orioles circles? If I wouldn't say it would be welcome if that's all they get. If they miss out on Valdez, Suarez, Amai, Gallen, and they don't trade for another starting pitcher and they just sign Chris Bassitt, it is not going to be welcome. But if you look at it from a depth perspective, it wouldn't. I don't think it would be ideal just because of the contract that is being projected out there for him right now. I've seen it anywhere from about 35 to 40 over 2 years. You can do something maybe a little cheaper on a 1 year deal, but still, I say a little cheaper, but you're still probably going to be looking between, I say maybe $17 to $20 million if you do a 1 year deal with him. And just for a veteran depth piece, he's 36 years old. And I know the rule a lot of you guys say on this channel, do not sign a pitcher over 32. And he would break that rule. Again, he's 36. Would that be something that the Orioles could possibly look at once they get their front end guy? They already have Shane Baz on the team. They just traded for, and it's going to be a guy that he is going to be in the rotation come 2026, middle to back end. And if you add another piece in the front end, I just don't see there being room for Bassitt for the salary that you're going to have to pay him. So if he was a lot cheaper of an option, I believe it would be welcome depth. But right now, if the Orioles go out and sign another guy like a Valdez or a Suarez, or trade for another guy more front end like a Peralta, then I don't believe it would be, just because of how much you're going to have to pay him. If you somehow get him on a much cheaper deal, okay. But I don't see that being the case. Even though he's 36, even though his velocity is dipped, I don't see him going anywhere on a cheaper deal. So as it goes, if the Orioles do add another front end guy, I don't believe that Chris Bassitt would be welcomed depth there. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments about that. And let's go ahead and get into your comments from this past episode on Christmas Day. And like always, if I mispronounce any of these names, I do apologize. And again, thank you so much for everyone that continues to comment on the channel, like, subscribe, and just interact. I really do appreciate it. This one from the Senator. I would also love the O's or Elias to sign a top-tier pitcher. I like to see our window expand to 5 years and sign a free agent pitcher for 3 to 5 years. spend what you have to make it happen. Mayo and Mountcastle, who I know people are down on, I feel one or both would have good seasons, and I feel it's smart to hold on to both regardless of the logic. Here's why: injuries in spring training or beginning the season. You don't have to find a part-time player or role player to fill that gap. You have a ready MLB player right there. Or a Mayo, second thing, they can always be flipped at the trade deadline to add to the roster instead of draining the farm. Yeah, and I get what you're saying. And right now, when it comes to Mayo, I don't think they're going to trade him right now. Like right now, here in the offseason, the way that anything could happen. But with what Mike Elias is saying is, if it's not first base, they would love to move him to another position because they really value him. Now, come trade deadline, it really depends on how the season is going for him. If he's having a stellar year and he's excelling in different positions, there's no reason to move him at the trade deadline. And Mountcastle really has no trade value right now. And I absolutely agree, and this is kind of what we're talking about in this episode, is the Orioles need to sign a top-tier pitcher. And since they gave up what they gave up for Shane Baz, they don't, in my opinion, I don't see them going out and getting another big name type starting pitcher when it comes to trading, just because of what they already given up, and they don't want to deplete their farm system already when they just try to get it back to where they wanted it to be. This one from Julian Taylor: what I hate about the game, they so not value defense anymore. It's all about the bat, and when we won the division, we was top 10 defensively. Yanks showed you all that offense and defense was horrible and cost them. Yeah, and it's true. And Bassitt, it's something that you wish you can get both of. And I feel like a lot of times nowadays, it's either one or the other. And it feels like that for the Orioles. Either they get really good defense or they get a good bat. And for one great season, you had that with Cedric Mullins, and you saw the bat just continuously dip down. And I feel like anyone that started to come in when Rutschman and Sanchez got hurt when he came to catching, yes, a great defensive catcher, but they didn't have a bat. So to be able to have a team that can be consistent with their bats, but also great defensively is what I'm really hopeful of. I'm hopeful that what we have now with Gunnar at short and Jordan Westberg at third base, Alonso at first, Rutschman staying healthy catching, I feel like those bats are really going to be great with Alonso and Ward there. And they're going to continue to develop. And I think that defense is going to continue to grow with their age as well and their progress. So I'm really hopeful that the Orioles can get back to having both of those. This one from Scott Warnick: go after Freddie Peralta? Not a chance. Gonna have to trade more top-notch minor leaguers in order to get Peralta, whose contract ends at the end of the year, and no guarantee you can re-sign him. Isn't his agent Scott Boras, who will ask for the moon for his client? So yeah, that's what I was kind of saying last episode. I was very high on the possibility of the Orioles trading for Freddie Peralta, but once they traded for Shane Baz, I said that's most likely gone, along with a trade with the Nationals for Mackenzie Gore. They're just not going to deplete their farm system to get a guy like Freddie Peralta. I just don't see it happening. And again, as much as I would love it, once Baz was brought in, it just kind of tore down any hopes of that happening. And Peralta was with Boras, but he just switched to Clutch Sports Group, so Scott Boras is no longer his client. But whoever he is with, I'm sure, are going to try to get the moon for him, especially when this season is over, because if you have to give up that much for a one-year rental, I'm not for it. I'm just not. So they would have to have that fear of not being able to re-sign him. And of course, yeah, he's going to want a lot, and whoever he's with is going to ask for a lot as well. This one from Matheus: O's need to go all in or go home early again. And that's kind of what we're talking about with the starting pitching. They've added some big pieces that we weren't really expecting. Mainly, wasn't expecting Rodriguez to be traded, and they got Taylor Ward. I wasn't expecting the Pete Alonso signing, but they did it. Now they just need another big pitcher, and if I see that, then I will be 100% yes, they are going all in for 2026 and beyond, because Alonso's not a one-year rental. He's there for 5 years, and it's going to be interesting who they go and get and how much they're paying, because they also need to think about these young guys and what they're going to be and how they're going to be able to pay them in the future. This one from Eric Johnson: they need starting pitching. No excuses this year. Make the move. 100%. No excuses. They traded for one. Now let's sign one. And this one from Yukis Lair: I'm a little concerned about Cowser. I hope he puts up better numbers next year. Yeah, he had a great 2020, or I say a really decent 2024, and then 2025 just went downhill. Injuries were a big part of that. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play that going into spring training and who they bring up to kind of rotate and compete with him out there in center field to see if he can hold his own or if it's something they need to continue to look at and monitor. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this latest episode. And again, I really hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas yesterday with your friends and family. And if you were a fan of today's episode, please throw your used Christmas wrapping paper at the like button. And if you're a fan of this content, please subscribe. Get yourself daily notifications for all of these daily video drops covering all things the Baltimore Orioles. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this latest episode. This is Orioles Today. I am Sean Ferguson, and let's go O's.